Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to have all of you on the call today. And welcome to anyone who is watching us live or archived on YouTube. My name is Heather Deering, and I am the Deputy Chief of Staff for Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman, and I am the staff to the Kentucky Commission on Women. I am so pleased to be here today for our fourth installment of the Kentucky Commission on Women's Virtual Conversations with Commissioners series. The Commission on Women was established in 1968 by Governor Louis Nunn by executive order and then became an official state agency. Excuse me, my screen just went blank. Became an official state agency in 1970 through legislative action. Over the years, the commission has conducted research, published reports, convened stakeholders, monitored legislation, hosted events, all with the goal of improving and elevating the status of women and girls in the Commonwealth. Today, our mission is to strengthen, empower, and elevate women and girls across Kentucky. The membership of the commission includes women who are representative of women across the state. They are of all ages, races, and religions. Our commissioners are executives, accountants, engineers, veterans, pastors, lawyers, realtors, educators, community leaders, and business owners. The commissioners are from urban areas and from rural communities. They are quite literally from Paducah to Pikeville. Our commissioners are an incredible and diverse group of women from all corners of the Commonwealth, and I'm so excited that several of them are actually our presenters today. Along with our commissioner presenters, we also have commissioners joining the call. We have Commissioner Marita Willis, Ashley Adkins, Judy Handcamp, Ann Perkins, and Susan Hirschberg, who are participants today as well. We're so happy to have you all on the call, and thank you for joining us. As I mentioned earlier, our mission is to support and elevate women across the state. And last year, we launched this virtual Conversations with Commissioners series to really highlight issues that women are facing across the Commonwealth. We live stream them, we leave them on YouTube for people to view later, and we choose topics that are important to women in the Commonwealth. We invite special guests who are knowledgeable or experts in the area to present information and open it up for questions from our commissioners. The theme and the guests and our commissioner hosts will change each conversation. Before I move into the content portion of today's conversation and hand it over to our special host, I would like to note that the views expressed in today's presentation or in any materials we share are those of the speakers and not necessarily of the Kentucky Commission on Women or the administration, and their presence does not constitute or imply an endorsement of their views. Today's conversation I'm super thrilled about. It is about Kentucky women's representation in government. We are lucky enough to have three of our very own commissioners who are currently serving in elected office who could be with us today. The reason we chose this topic is because last year in our published report on the status of women in Kentucky, we reported that, as most of us are aware, we have no female representation in Kentucky in Congress. We have less than a third of our statewide elected officials who are women. Approximately 30% of the General Assembly are women. 20% of Kentucky mayors are women, and less than 1% of Kentucky judges or Kentucky judge executives are women in Kentucky. So we have some room for improvement. And what we wanted to do today is really have a discussion to demystify what it's like to run for office and serve as an elected official. And while we did promise to have Lieutenant Governor Coleman as our panel facilitator today, unfortunately, she has been waylaid by this weather that we are all facing. So she is unable to join us, but we have a fantastic pinch hitter today who I am thrilled to introduce. A lifelong Kentuckian, Cherlynn Stevenson has devoted her life to the well-being and service of those in her immediate community, her heritage of Eastern Kentucky, and throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Cherlynn grew up in Hinman, Kentucky, and graduated from Morehead State University with a degree in behavioral sciences. She began working in the health and wellness industry, serving Fortune 500 corporations, hospitals, and nonprofits. She has owned her own small business. She's worked in the horse industry, and throughout her career, she's been an acknowledged leader with a remarkable ability to understand community concerns and unify the effort to resolve them. Cherlynn served herself in the Kentucky State House of Representatives, representing District 88 from 2019 to 2024, and she had the honor to serve as the House Democratic Caucus Chair during her last term in her office, and I had the honor to watch her do that. It was quite fantastic. Cherlynn and her husband Chris live in Lexington with their three kitties, Peanut, Butter, and Jelly, and you may hear one of them in the background throughout this session.
Yes, you might see a tail or hear one of them. Sorry.
That's okay. We all do what we can, right? So, Cherlynn, I'm so happy to hand it over to you and start this panel. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thanks so much, Heather, for that wonderful introduction. I am so pleased to be with you guys here today and pleased that I was able to hop in at the last minute as the Lieutenant Governor became unavailable. And it was such a pleasure to serve in office. I became the first woman to ever hold the seat in the 88th. And when I served as caucus chair, along with Rachel Roberts as whip in the caucus, we became only the fifth and sixth women to ever hold leadership positions in the House of Representatives here in Kentucky. So pretty big deal. And I'm really proud of that. I first decided that I wanted to run when a lot of things were going on with teachers across the state. My mom was a second grade teacher, was my second grade teacher. And as threats to teacher pensions became more and more prevalent, decided that I was just tired of sitting on the sidelines and actually wanted to try to do something about it. Didn't think I'd win, but thought if we can make people realize the vast differences between federal and state level politics, if we could make people pay attention to what was happening in Frankfort and we could make more people go vote, then that would be a win. But lo and behold, I actually ended up winning that race. So it was absolutely a pleasure to serve. And while that was a partisan position, I just want to remind everybody today that the data that was shared earlier in our conversation today is nonpartisan. At this point, I think that we can move on to talking about our three panelists, and I want to give each of them an opportunity to introduce themselves. And I'm going to go west to east today. So we will start with Christine Thompson.
Hi, thank you, Cherlynn, and thank you for your service. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christine Thompson. Currently, I am in Paducah for work, but I reside and hold office in Livingston County. I was elected in 2018 and again in 2022 to the Livingston County School Board representing District 1. I was the first Latina to win an election in the state of Kentucky. I'm very proud of that title, and I hope it inspires more women of color to run for office. I also served as board chair a few months into my term, and I continued that role into my second term. School board members are nonpartisan. We set district policy, we hire and evaluate the superintendent, we approve the budget, we advocate for public education, and we ensure accountability and community engagement. Unfortunately, Livingston is losing their superintendent, Dr. Mindshine, so we are on the lookout for a leader to fill that position.
All right, next we'll move to Terry Owens.
Hello, I am Terry Owens, or also called Lieutenant Colonel Retired Terry Owens, depending on who's talking. Coming to you from the Muhammad Ali International Airport, but I represent Hardin County, the city of Radcliff, nonpartisan elected official in the city council. I ran in 2020, was reelected in 22, and reelected in 24. Across the board, the main three things we do focus on, along with advocacy, would be to formulate a budget annually, which we're getting ready to go into that now, update or make new ordinances, which is laws at our municipal level, and then, of course, appoint people to the board, like planning and zoning, forestry, and so forth. Those are complements to the level of county engagement. Particularly now, we're talking about engagement in land use, since we have the large Ford electric vault company that's here in Glendale, which is not incorporated to us. And so just looking at things like those are the big things where we are changing zoning and being very particular about how the land is being used. So yes, nonpartisan. I enjoy being the first Black female veteran ever in the city to hold this seat. And I think serving is in my DNA after being in the Army for 30 years. So thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you. And last but certainly not least, Colleen Younger.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Colleen Younger. I am the current Jefferson County Property Valuation Administrator. I was elected to that seat in 2018 and re-elected in 2022 with no opposition. I always say it's the only way to run for office, no opposition. But when I ran in 2018, I was running against the sitting governor at that time's handpicked candidate. And I worked very hard, raised a very substantial amount of money for this office, and won handily with 61% of the vote. My job is to evaluate all property, real and tangible, throughout Jefferson County. And we produce a $99 billion tax roll. So it is the largest source of revenue in the state of Kentucky. I'm glad to be here today, and I thank you, Cherlynn, for filling in for Lieutenant Governor.
Well, it is my pleasure. And ladies, thank you so much for your service to our Commonwealth. When I was in office and visiting classrooms a lot, one thing that I would always do is talk to the students about male and female representation in the legislature. And I would always ask them to guess how many women were serving. And it never failed every single time. Hands would go up, and the very first answer was always like 50%, 51%, 48%. I mean, they always just naturally assumed that it was about half of the population. And as we all know and heard earlier, that is definitely not true. So thank you for stepping up. And I believe it is our job as women to turn around and encourage other women to run for office and to start them young and early. And I always say, ladies, I'm looking at you. We all expect to see you on a ballot at some point in, down the line and in your future. So let's talk a little bit about that and about running for office and what serving looks like. I will ask you all, for brevity's sake, please try to keep your answers to about 2 minutes apiece. So first, let's talk about what motivated you to run for office. And Terry, I'm going to let you take that question first.
Just wanting to continue to serve and not necessarily just complain or hope that someone else is going to take care of it. And so, you have a passion for wanting to lead as well as follow and then advocate. So that was the biggest thing. So when I retired in September 2017, I was asked to run in 18. And so there you go. That's what kept me going. And representation. People need to see us. Like you said, with the kids, they just assume that we're there. And we're there, but we're in small numbers. So that's why I ran.
Yes, thank you. All right. And then we'll move to Colleen.
Okay. So what motivated me to run for office was I'd always been involved in my community. And most of my life I worked in government. And so I had a good amount of experience and understanding of what public service was really all about. I learned that by working in government. I was actually serving as the chief of staff for the current office that I serve or that I represent. And when my predecessor boss, Tony Lindauer, decided to retire, I made the decision to run for the seat at the urging of many people in the community and friends and family members. In 2018, if you all remember, the real estate market was at almost an all-time high. Mortgage rates were very low. I was very concerned about people and the prospect of losing their homes because the property values were increasing so rapidly we could hardly keep up with it. So that was also one of the motivations, was that it was climbing so high so fast, and I knew people were going to be hurt by increased tax bills. I like to help people, and the idea of public service was something that came natural to me, instilled by my mom. And so I looked upon it as an opportunity to serve the community and the taxpayers of Jefferson County.
Thanks. And Christine?
I wanted to make a positive difference in my community. I knew my skill sets and my passion for education would provide a unique opportunity to lead the push for improvement in our district. I grew up in an immigrant household, and education was emphasized as the only way for a better future and for upward mobility. My mom grew up in a rural pueblo in Mexico. She was pulled out of school in the 5th grade to help raise her younger siblings. She didn't have the opportunity for an education, so she wanted to ensure that we had access to those opportunities when they came here. My dad felt the same way. He was more fortunate in that he grew up in Mexico City, so he was able to go to a 4-year university and graduate with a mechanical engineering degree. Although Livingston doesn't have a significant immigrant population, we do have a lot of kids that come from a lower socioeconomic background, and they deserve access to a high quality education.
Well, thank you all. And again, we're so glad that you made the decision to step up. I remember when I first started running for office and I went to meet with Crit Llewellyn, she really talked to me about being assertive, because so many women are even reluctant candidates. We have to be asked many times to run, as to where men often, they just believe they can do it and they want it, so they go after it. And then they have such an easier time asking people for money. And I know that, as we run, we have to. And so women just view service a lot different, and that process looks a lot different. But as we all know, it looks harder a lot for us. So thank you all so much for stepping up. Let's talk a little bit about expectations as you went into office. I know I was not ready for the quick pace of lobbyists and meetings and all of that kind of stuff. So that was a big surprise for me when I first started serving. So let's talk about what each of you found met your expectations or did not meet your expectations about serving. And we'll go to Colleen first.
Okay, so I pretty much understood like the ins and outs of the office because I was already in there serving as the chief of staff, and I'd been in that role for a good amount of time, 7 years. So I knew what to expect from the property owners and the taxpayers. My initial expectations were really around my own goals for the office.
Mm-hmm.
I knew most people were not thrilled about the rising property values and what was going on in the market. And so the first thing we did was we wrote a mission statement that I think encompassed what our goals were going to be around. And that was to offer best-in-class customer service and to provide fair and equitable property values. So and then we began putting programs and policy in place around that mission statement that would help us to achieve what we were trying to achieve. We overcame a lot of bad culture that had been sort of left behind in the office. And one of the first actions that I took toward that change of culture was, because I knew that was going to be important. We had a culture inside that was kind of negative, really. And it was a fear-based culture. And I had really wanted our former PVA to do things that he just wouldn't agree to do. So I was kind of stuck, but I knew that was going to be important. I got a hold of the salary sheet and I looked at the people who made the least amount of money in the office. And I went to the bottom of that salary schedule and I gave them raises first. And many of those people had not received raises in almost 10 years, or since 2007 anyway. Yeah, 11 years actually. So we did that first. And then we began to grow gratitude in the office, and people began to really change their persona and their attitude about being a public servant and not just a worker in the office. So that was what we did internally. We built an amazing culture in our office by raising salaries and providing education for our employees. Externally, I felt it was imperative for us to improve our credibility with taxpayers. And so we created the very popular You Have a Right to Appeal program, which has become a national model. It's a robust public outreach program. We do public meetings so that when you get your reassessment notice, you know what to do. You're not surprised. You don't have sticker shock. You know what your recourse is and how to go about lowering your property value if in fact you think that we have gotten it incorrect. That program has been recognized by the National Association of Counties and by the National Association of Government Communicators. So that just gave us some integrity almost immediately that we were going out facing the public, and the expectation now is that, in our office internally, that we are the public servants here. We're not going to run from our values. We're going to share them. We're going to be transparent, and we're going to show people what their right is and how to be successful. Because if we've gotten it wrong, I don't want, I want people to win. I don't want a tax roll that is filled with inaccuracy. So that's one of the things that we've done. It's become a national model, and it's really been an integral piece in growing that integrity and credibility in the office and outside the office with taxpayers.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much. Terry, what about you?
My expectations were met as far as the decision-making process or the length of time it takes for us to move from A to Z.
Yes.
What I didn't expect to find is the low-level engagement and understanding from the public as far as what political processes involve the different branches of government and what our jurisdiction, responsibility, and accountability are or is. And so when people think that we're not doing what we're doing, it's really based on what they expect us to do versus what we can do. And so we spend a lot of times defining our roles to individuals and then explaining the value across the 24,000 people in our county. I believe we are the 5th or 6th largest county out of 120. And everybody wants their want, but they don't understand how they get it. When we start talking about taxes and revenue, PDA, which we just went through last year, then they start to think, well, what does that got to do with me? Or did we just do this 10 years ago? Or is this something we got to have? Or the definition of economic development and how fair and equitable that is at a different part of the county. We are heavily ruled as is the state. So I thought to kind of help balance that was to establish a mayor's youth city council. And so right now I got their first ordinance read. Now the second read or the review is with the Hardin County School Board. And so that would help out what we just have at the state level with the new proposal for civic education. I think it's called Bill 585. And that was just based on the civic health assessment last year that our state AG did. And so to start young, so people understand their role and their responsibility to be civically engaged, because we can't wait until they get to be voters' age or when they're okay with their job or they're living in a certain lifestyle or when they get to whatever they get to. It's just like any other education kind of goal. And so while we have a Common Core program, we have a little light civic one, which is why we're one of 8 states that does not have a formal civic education program. So expectations met as far as roles and responsibility, slight disappointment, and an opening of how people expect us to operate at a municipal level. So I'm going to try to fix it.
Great. Thank you. So what was something that you were intimidated about coming into office that ended up not being quite so bad? Christine, I'll let you take that one first.
Thanks. So naturally, I'm an introvert. I was intimidated by the possible public scrutiny, having to speak to the media, just public in general, just made me nervous. Once I went to the first few meetings, I realized these are just business meetings being conducted in a public setting, and we're not there to perform for the public. So I think once I took out that performative element in the equation, it all just kind of clicked. I was able to focus on making the best decisions for our students and having productive conversations with my fellow board members.
Good. And Colleen?
Well, unlike Christine, I was an over-the-top extrovert. So one of the things I've had to learn is how to rein it in some, But I think the PVA office is somewhat, I don't know if controversial is the right word, but it's not the most popular agency in government because with property value comes taxes. And taxpayers are smart enough to know that when we raise their property value, that's going to convert to a tax bill in November. So I was a little apprehensive about, going out in public, having these big public meetings and trying to create this transparency piece that the office had never had before, because previously they just mailed the reassessment notice and it was what it was. So we created the program to create transparency and educate the public on the reassessment and appeal process. So what we just do these public meetings every year, and we go out. And last year we had record numbers. We had 1,200 people show up to the public meeting,
Wow.
which is a lot. And so this year we're doing 3 public meetings, which start next week, and I'm expecting as many people, or more. So, and I think we've had these record attendees coming, and I think when people see that you're really trying to help them and that you really care, then they relax and they trust you. And that's what our experience has been. I always say, I copied this off of Governor Beshear. Valuation, property values are not red or blue.
Right.
Even though, I am in a partisan seat, I serve all of the taxpayers of Jefferson County, and valuation is not an exact science. So, if we got it wrong, I want you to appeal and I want you to win. And I tell people that, and they believe us. So the other thing that we did to overcome all this was every year now we send PVA staffers out into the community in the area that we're reassessing to local libraries. So if we're reassessing your area, Cherlynn, you're going to be able to go to your local library, meet with a PVA staffer, and they're going to walk you through, that appeal process. That has just been an incredible rapport builder between the PVA and the community and the taxpayers. I believe, I think it's really about caring about people enough and having an empathy button and having an empathic ear to what's going on. And I believe that when I win and you lose, that we both lose. Or if you lose, you win and I lose, we both lose. So I believe in building win-win situations and solutions. And I try to lead with a servant heart. I'm a public servant first before I'm an elected official. We have so many people tell us that even though they know their taxes are going to be going up, that they appreciate the fact that we are in front of them, walking them through a process and recourse that they know that they have and that they are entitled to.
Yeah.
So we try to get all that done beforehand, and we do it well now. We've had it in place for almost 7 years.
Yeah.
With record numbers of people participating in that.
Great. Well, I think there's definitely a common theme running through some of this, and I think that is where women in office differ a little bit from men. I think that we are natural caretakers and nurturers, and so I think when we are dealing with the public, as we are serving them, that there becomes that need to help those people overtakes, and that so if they need that little bit of education, then that is something that we're definitely going to take the time to talk about, and that's something that all of you have talked about and in your rapport with constituents, the press, or whatever. I think that we desperately want people to understand. We want to help them connect the dots so that they can better know that how their government is working and how it's serving them or not serving them, so that they have a general understanding, instead of just thinking that government is this big thing over here and everybody serving in elected office is somebody higher than them who, that we're not reachable, that we're not conversational, that they can't come in and just have a conversation with us. And I think that, women in office lend themselves better to that. And I think something that I have learned is that it is difficult when you get out there and folks aren't understanding what's happening. I know as I was knocking doors, the previous 2 elections, there were the 2 amendments on the ballot, and I spent a lot of time with people at their doors talking about how those got on the ballot. You know, people were saying, well, why on earth did Governor Beshear put these on the ballot? And so I had to explain how an amendment, even gets to the ballot. And I think that that's a quality that we all share, that a lot of women in office share, and that we are willing to take the time to nurture those folks and educate them so that they can better understand their place and where we're coming from. And again, that is something that I have learned, and it has helped me to grow as I have talked to people, and it's helped me to better serve them. So what is the greatest lesson that you feel like you have learned while serving in elected positions? We'll start with Terry.
Just to be a little bit more patient, and then also because we have small town politics, you have to understand where those bodies are buried, the weight of those relationships,
Yes.
and how to balance that and not be an adversarial person all the time. You know, I always say, yeah, I know what the bodies are, but I also respect those individuals who made those bodies, good, bad, and indifferent. And because you got to know who you're dealing with. And because we are a small town, people have grown up together here, and a lot of them are serving in elected and appointed positions. And so they already kind of have their ideals of what they think their leaders should do and be. Sometimes it's a little, tilted, and they think it should do more over here in this neighborhood or more over here in this juncture. But as Colleen has said, we are servants first, and that we, look out for the best interest for everybody and not just a marginal group that we grew up with or work with or go to church with or whatever it is. And so here, last name, like in a lot of places, last names carry weight if you've been here since the 2nd grade. And so for me, I get a little protected because I tell people I don't owe you anything other than respect and to represent you. So I can't be kind of put in a box or, guilt by association or success by association because of last name or whatever the legacy is. So I had to really learn that, but not let that be a weight for me to always worry about that first. And I felt that way knocking on doors and making phone calls and things like that. And like you said, explaining things to people at the door when they wanted to know why this amendment was on this election or who was on it. And so people would ask, why'd you run? I said, my job is to continue to represent you. And I'm not here to tell you to vote for me. I just want you to know who all your people are.
Yes.
So you're informed. So that's what I've learned and enjoyed, and not so much become so fearful of trying to say, I'm not one of those. I'm not one of those. I'm this. And
Yes.
so that's it.
Okay. And Christine?
The biggest lessons that I've learned are empathy and understanding are the biggest tools when you're serving the greater good. Being able to understand the needs of the community that you serve and fostering that empathy and patience when you're making your decisions. Other lessons I think that are important would be collaboration and being adaptable. Those were very important lessons, especially during the pandemic, having to navigate an unpredictable environment. Those lessons were invaluable to my service.
Yes, great. Well, we are all super busy. Most of us are running a household. Many of us have children. We're balancing home, careers, public service, any volunteering that we do, church, other groups. So my question to you ladies, what do you do for self-care? What do you do because you're constantly giving and serving others? How do you recharge yourself and love yourself? We'll start with Colleen.
I start my day out in meditation every morning. And it's an interesting story I'll tell you real quick. during the pandemic, I have a very strong, close group of women network. And during the pandemic, we were like, what are we going to do? We're not going to be able to see each other. And we're all kind of, we're very like-minded. We believe in meditation and sort of a, you know, higher spiritual calling and that kind of thing. And so I said, I had a Zoom account. I said, why don't we start a meditation on Zoom? And so we did that. And so now our meditation group, we do it every morning. There's 5 of us. And it's on Zoom, and it's been going now for 5 years.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's fantastic.
that's how I start my day. But I believe in, you know, right now I'm dealing with plantar fasciitis, so I would be out walking because I love to get out and walk. I like exercise. I enjoy going and getting massage, that kind of stuff. But I think, you know, some of the greatest really self-care is to really have just a wonderful network of people that you can spend time with and enjoy. You know, I do some things at my home, like invite all the women over and we all bring something and we have potlucks or something like that. And just stuff like that really makes a difference and fills your heart up. Anything that fills your heart up. The other thing that I do is I am in service to other young women and mentor, and serve as a mentor to young women who, many of whom had, you know, were single parents like I was, or may have some of the same kind of former issues that I had in life. And I share those because when you share that kind of stuff, it lessens your burdens.
Good.
And I want to say this, that, you know, Maya Angelou, who's one of my great sheroes, said that your legacy is every life you touch.
I love that. It's great. Terry?
Jog, power walk, and I garden. I'm in 3 different gardens between Fort Knox, Radcliff, and Elizabethtown. Anywhere that I can find a place to walk or to jog, that's what I do.
Right. So when you garden, are like flowers or vegetables or both?
Both. One of the gardens where I'm about to put that up under United Way. I sit on the community investment team for United Way. So I know where our grant money goes for 5 counties, but we have a small garden that we've incorporated as far as getting people to work together, which is what the government's supposed to, you know, work together, but also feed each other nutritional foods and things like that, and just communicate with each other and have a sense of the neighborness. And so we have another one that belonged to the city, and it kind of went in disarray a little bit just due to low interest. And so I ended up being partner in it about 2 years ago. So now I'm going to pull it up under officially Central Kentucky United Way's gardening program. So we can develop some programs almost like civic engagement, except it'll be, you know, almost like garden therapy. So right now I have a Girl Scout Troop 3818 out of Elizabethtown that's home for them. And they just finished sowing some winter seeds, and a couple of neighbors are helping us build a greenhouse and things like that. So we've given food out, the produce out to Warm Blessings Community Kitchen in Elizabethtown as well. And so now the neighbors sort of trust us. At first they would just sort of drive by and the window would come down. They kind of look like, what are those people doing over there? But now it's a good thing. I have a butterfly garden in the mix. I've got 5 caterpillars at home. I'm growing like weeds. Just got them a couple of days ago in the mail from another garden, as a matter of fact. And so I peeked in on them my way out. I was like, did they grow overnight? Because they're huge. But we're doing things in order to bring people back just around the corner from Spring Haven Women's Domestic Shelter. So hopefully they'll come out. The ones who can publicly will come out and own a box. Like I said, Girl Scouts Troop 3818, they have 4 boxes there. And they've already painted them Girl Scout green and that kind of thing. So it's a good thing. It brings some of this down, but giving in the same way, just a different energy pathway. But that's what I do: jog, power walk, and garden.
Great. And Christine?
Terry, I'm about to start my gardening journey, so I'll have to get with you on some advice on that. So I'm very active. I love to run. I try to participate in local 5Ks and half marathons when I can. That keeps me healthy and gives me energy with being a mom and my job and keeping up with everything in life. Also, ever since I turned 40, I actually take a week-long trip to a different country, and I go surfing. So I've always wanted to surf. So I decided when I turned 40, I just told myself, you know what, this is now or never. So I taught myself how to surf. I do go with a group of women. It's a women's only surf retreat. And we go to different countries. I've been to Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Mexico, and I just kind of just enjoy the sport. It's very it's a sport where you're out there. You might be by yourself sometimes, and you just get to really enjoy being in the moment. Of course, there's a little bit of risk and danger to it, so that's the appealing part to me. But I love it. I want to keep doing it until until I'm 60 or 70. Like I want to keep going. So, but that's just something I do for myself. I don't take my family. I leave the kids at home, and I just enjoy that time with other fellow women that enjoy extreme sports. It's a very unusual pastime.
It is, but that's so exciting. Yeah, I did not have surfing on my bingo card today, so that's great. But and thank all of you for sharing that. And as a reminder to everyone else watching, we often just pour and pour and pour ourselves into other people and our work. And just a brief reminder to be kind to yourself and find those things that help fill your cup back up so you can keep pouring into others. I think that we have one question left. I would love to ask all of you what advice that you would give to other women who are considering running for office right now. And we'll start with Terry. Oh, we can't hear you, Terry. There you go.
I would say, don't let anybody tell you when it's your turn. Often they tell us, wait our turn, wait our turn, wait our turn, wait till someone dies, wait till someone maxes out of what they were planning to do, wait until it's an odd year, even year, whatever. Your turn is your turn when you're ready, just like anything else you tackle, whether you're surfing or for me, it's skydiving or something of that nature, because I've done that twice so far. Your turn is your turn, and expect to be scared, expect to be frustrated, expect to be losing sleep, expect to feel uncertain, but at least it's your time. It becomes your turn.
Okay. Thank you. And Christine?
My advice would be if you have the opportunity to seek out a mentor and maybe even seek out someone that has different opinions and beliefs than you. I think that's always a humbling and good experience. Be ready to put in the work. Historically, in general, women and especially women of color have to work harder to convince people that we're viable candidates. So be ready to go all in. Also building a support network. It's an uneven playing field, and having that external support is crucial. And last, don't be afraid of losing. There's that possibility that you're not going to win your election, but when you're out there running your campaign, when you're talking to your constituents, when you're advocating for your community, you're still making a difference. You're still making those connections. You're building that self-confidence for yourself. You're getting your name out there. People have a positive impression of you. So I think that's important to understand, because that's a natural fear. That was a fear of mine, and I'm sure with anyone that's running for office, the win or lose.
Yep. And Colleen?
Well, I wrote some specific things down because it can be very, as we all know, it can be daunting. You go in, you file for candidacy and put your name on the ballot, and then you're like, what do I do next? So I had some great mentors, as Christine was suggesting, but I do have a few suggestions. One is you can't be afraid to raise money. I know sometimes the telephone feels like it's 400 pounds. You got to pick the phone up. and you got to make the phone call. And one of the things that I did was the suggestion of one of my mentors was I made a list. She said, I want you to try to get to 500 people that you think would give you a donation. I think I got to like 425. So it doesn't matter. Some may give you $5, some may give you $2,000. Write their names down and ask for the money. Recruit volunteers that will execute and that have a skill set to bring to the campaign, because the important thing is getting in business with the right people. Don't spend campaign money on frivolous things. Every dollar you spend should bring a benefit to the campaign. And lastly, in order to run for office, you have to have what I always call fire in your belly. And it is a sacrifice, but it's also a great privilege and an honor. Treat it that way, stay humble, and keep working.
Well, that, ladies, thank you, is solid advice for anybody who is out there thinking about running for office. As I mentioned, I sought out a few mentors and talked to a few people. And one of the first things that another woman told me was, you know, any man will just walk up to somebody and be like, hey, I'm running for office. Why don't you write me a check? And women have a really hard time asking for help because we are used to being problem solvers. We are used to wearing a lot of different hats and just somehow finding a way to get it done. But, you know, when you take on the challenge of running for office, you have to be willing to let other people help you. You have to be willing to delegate things. And that can be really hard to do for all of us, but it is necessary. And it makes you a better candidate. It makes you, you know, having people out there that can do a lot of the menial tasks for you. It gives you the opportunity to, you know, to engage more with the people that are about to be your constituents and talk to them. You as the candidate need to be making voter contact over and over and over. And I also love the thing that Colleen said about not spending on frivolous things. Every time I see a stress ball or a Post-it note stack with somebody's, you know, thing on it, I just want to scream. Because yes, I know that in our brain, we're told, oh, well, that's something that would have your name on it that these people would see over and over and over again. But nope. Cut out all the tchotchkes. You don't need them. That's definitely something that I would say as well. It has been such a privilege to be here with you guys today. Unfortunately, I have to run. So I am going to turn it back over to Heather to ask a few questions. I think there might be some audience questions and to close us out. Again, thank you all so much for the opportunity to be with you today.
Thank you, Cherlynn. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys.
Hi.
I'm so glad I get to ask a question, you guys. You all have given us so many powerful insights, and I'm just overwhelmed at the knowledge you all have shared, and I appreciate you sharing your personal experiences. So in the absence of the Lieutenant Governor who couldn't be here today, she did have a question up her sleeve that she wanted to ask. So I'm going to ask it on her behalf. And that is, you know, we talked a lot today about the challenges of serving in office as a woman and running for office, but she was going to ask you, what have you gotten done? Like, what is your proudest accomplishment you have achieved as an elected official? So I'm just gonna go in the order I can see on the screen. So Terry, are you ready and able to answer that question about your proudest accomplishment? Great.
Proudest accomplishment would be connecting the military community with the community at large. I think often we have a natural biasness between almost like have and have not, an experience versus a non-experience, particularly when we've had the base realignment, the recent base realignment with Fort Knox, and people not understanding the movement of the pieces on the chessboard, and that affected economic development, contracts, and things like that, and just troop movement and small business benefits as people are moving in and moving out. And so when we had that big turnover, you know, people looked at elected officials and said, well, why do we do this? Why we do this? And not understanding the federal level Department of Defense. And I think I've been able to regain the confidence of our community, and not just ours, but the 2 or 3 that I'm always in, Breckenridge, LaRue, Grayson. And so now they kind of understand why we do what we do. And it's not a have or a have not, or the folks who live on post and the folks who live off post and the ones who served and the ones who supported. Gelling and putting those two together make this thing called government work. It's not them and it's not us. And it's not the male and the female, the spouse and the whatever. So I think I've successfully accomplished bringing those melding those pieces together so that our government can be effective in representing the best interest of those 23,000 that we have called Radcliff.
Thank you so much, Terry. Next, Colleen, I'm going to go to you, and I'll full disclosure, I'm a constituent of yours. So I know what some of your accomplishments are, and you've actually shared some of your accomplishments with us as well. But is there one that you want to just say, this is the thing I'll be the most proud about when I leave this office?
I think, first of all, I'm just going to say that I could not be in this seat without the incredible team that I have put together here. And we have a remarkable group of people here. And so I want to give all the accolades to them for doing what they do every day and propping me up. But I am very proud of the integrity and the credibility that we have brought back to this office. As I said, we were under some scrutiny that wasn't very positive in previous administrations, and we have really restored integrity and credibility, and we've built a wonderful workplace culture. We have been 3 years in a row, we have been named by the Courier Journal as one of the top workplaces in Jefferson County.
Amazing.
And then the You Have a Right to Appeal program has received a national award last year from the National Association of Counties, and it's become a model. So the things that we are doing are making an impact, not just in Jefferson County, but throughout the country. And I'm very honored to work with the people I work with.
Thank you. Christine, can you bring it home? Tell
So like Colleen, I work with a team. I have 4 other board members that I work with. We have to be willing to collaborate and compromise on the decisions that we make, and always keep in mind to keep students first. We also have an incredible superintendent that unfortunately is leaving us, but we are gonna find someone great to fill his shoes. But all together, we work as a team, and we've accomplished a lot in the last 4 years. I have a long list of things, but some of the things we've got a wonderful new infrastructure. We've got a new board office that we just built. We've got new programs that we brought in, great teachers that we've, I won't say taken from other districts, but that we've recruited. We've come a long way from where we were. I would say since I was on the board, I know morale was a little bit low. There's just things going on in the community and in the district that weren't up to our standards and expectations. So in the last 7 years, I think we've restored trust in the community. We've really, I think Livingston County has been elevated to that's where I want to send my kid to get educated. And we were just having a high quality education, public education. So I'm really proud of that. And I'm just really proud of everything we've done and accomplished so far. And we still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Well, I know one accomplishment that you had too as well, Christine, right? And that is that you were the first Latina to be elected in an office in Kentucky, correct?
Yes. And I'm very proud of that title, and I hope I won't be the last. I haven't kept up with any of the elections that maybe had any candidates, but I don't think I'll be the last, and I hope I'm not the last.
No, well, hopefully we've convinced someone who's watching today that they need to run for office, and I'm so grateful for you all to do this today. And I heard some themes in just your last responses too, and I heard a lot of we and us's, right? And I know that women we do build teams, but you all are leading those teams, so the accomplishments are yours. I have loved hearing the commonalities and the differences of your experiences, and I hope we have pulled back the curtain a little for what it's like to serve as an elected official and as a public servant. And I hope maybe we've convinced someone who's watching to consider running for office. We are lucky to you, Colleen, and you, Christine, and you, Terry, to have you serving as a commissioner on the Commission on Women, and your local communities are lucky to have you representing them. And of course, thank you so much to Cherlynn Stevenson for being gracious enough to fill in for Lieutenant Governor Coleman. As you know, I asked that last question on her behalf. She is really sorry she couldn't join us. We'll get her on another one of these soon. And thank you to the three of you for being our panelists. This was really fantastic. We will be archiving this Conversations with Commissioners on our Kentucky Commission on Women's YouTube channel. And I am excited to announce that our next virtual Conversations with Commissioners will be Friday, June 6th, and we will be discussing Kentucky women's health issues. I hope you can join us for that conversation. And if you are interested in keeping up with our future meetings, events, and programs, you can sign up through the Contact Us page at our Kentucky Commission on Women website, which is women.ky.gov, or you can follow us on Instagram or Facebook. Thank you so much to our panelists, to our guests, and to our host. I look forward to seeing you all at our next virtual Conversations with Commissioners.